So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to get some different tones out of the hi-hat. And this is something I like to use, especially when I'm soloing. If I'm playing like jazz or like a funk thing or whatever, and just kind of manipulating the sound of the hi-hat. Also, if you dig the grooves that I'm showing you, check out my book, Tactical Drumming Groove Survival Guide. I'll put a link for that in the description. And if you dig this video, please like and subscribe. Okay, so I want to go beyond the basic sounds that we usually use in the hi-hat, which would be just a straight up, like, you know, when most indicators on like a piece of sheet music, it'll pretty much say closed hi-hat or open hi-hat, right? And so the idea here is to kind of look beyond just those two sounds. So you notice I was kind of manipulating the sounds. I don't want to talk about how I'm doing that and what I'm doing. So obviously the basic closed hi-hat sound, my foot's down, I'm getting that straight sound, right? Usually I'm going to play in this zone. I call that the sweet spot of the hi-hat. Right, if I'm doing a lift, now I lift just a little bit, just a tiny bit from as I lift up the hi-hat. Right, I try to get the longest sound that I possibly can, only bringing the hi-hats just a little bit apart. And the best way to do that, one of the things I do with my students is I'll actually have them sit there and we'll just experiment with the sound. Because you don't want to open it way too much. Right, then you're just getting the tone of the cymbal, right? But you want both cymbals to resonate as long as possible, right? And then I also want to be able to control that by making it short and then closing it off, right? So if I'm playing something like, right, it allows me to keep it nice and short. Or like if I'm playing your classic on the upbeat, right? I'm just opening the hi-hat just a teeny bit to get that sound. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how I was manipulating the sound even more to actually change the tone of the hi-hat. And all I'm doing on this is I'm actually just leaning into it. So if I just play some straight A's, I'm pushing down, but as I'm also pushing down, I'm moving towards the center or the bell of the hi-hat, right? So if I'm playing this, and I can incorporate that into a groove, right? So I can go. Right, so what I'm doing is, all I'm doing is I'm pushing harder on the hi-hat to kind of tighten it up a little bit, and I move up and down. So instead of playing here in the sweet spot, I'm going to now move towards the center and also push down. So it's going to give me a lower tone. So if I just play, we can kind of hear that change, right? And that's basically it. So I'm going to close this out by just kind of playing around a little bit more on the hi-hat. And that's basically the gist, right? You got your straight closed hi-hat sound, a little bit open, right? Which you can kind of play little open hits. And then I've got my manipulated sound where I'm basically moving towards the center from the edge to create a different sound. So here we go. Ready?